Yeah, how's it going, mate? So you're doing Phoenix Colossus. Other matchups feeling good? How's the MMR
Yeah,
going? What's
yeah.
been happening?
I mean, it's mostly been going okay. I think I might want to change build in PvP because I feel like with the way shield batteries are right now, just having a charge by immortal accomplish is a bit sort of, I don't know, it just doesn't feel as powerful as it used to be. So now, and everyone's playing this really ultra safe blink. Go to 3 base, build a whole bunch of shield batteries build. So might want to change that up a bit, but I think
I
PvP is
forget. I
going
forget. Were you
fine.
doing a two gas all in? Was it or
For Gus.
just on two base? Like just like
2 base,
classic,
yeah.
like with immortals as well. Like
Yeah.
oh, it's like super old school. Yeah, yeah. I think Charged Archon is still like so good at breaking them, but it's more like hey, a two gas all in is good for just overwhelming people because if you ever get a prism in the main, like it's like if they see everything, know what's going on, engage you on the map, and keep falling back and whittle your units down, and then get to their shield batteries, you're like, well, you just can't break this. But you kind of then remember how much of a balancing act it is seeing everything that's coming as a blink player and having the units intercept it and not get caught out, and how if Prism ever gets in the main or Zealots get in the mineral lines, its Stalker's damage is just so low. They take so long to get rid of the Zealots and actually protect the workers. But so I think those fast all-ins as well as like if you do your own blink third base, bite off like 12 Stalkers, you're just like no, just Zealots and Archons from here and doing a big like 2.5 base timing kind of thing, or maybe just getting the minerals on the third and like 3 gases in total. The current way I'm trying to macro in PvP is I actually am trying to force myself to go for a fourth Nexus before going past 3 gases. Because the big thing is it's hard to kill someone with Charge Lot Archon, even in that case, but it's also the best thing for fighting on the map. It's like it's hard to kill them with shield batteries and cannons around and battery overcharges and stuff and good defensive positioning. But you can just expand at this insane rate with the Chargelet Archon because they can't really come out on the map, and you can still escalate your Stalker count and that sort of stuff. But the power of the Zealot Archon timing, just that raw damage output, is so ridiculous. So it's interesting because that's kind of like an extrapolation of what I've learned from Hass, which is the guy who always looks like he's Zealot Archon all-inning you with no upgrades, and then he somehow always gets economically ahead in almost all of his PvPs, and then he does it much later all in with 1 or 2 upgrades less, but so much more shit that it doesn't matter, and sometimes even finds his way into the disruptor game with a massive advantage. So it's kind of interesting to see where that meta goes. I still think like you look at how Zest is playing, and just every type of one base attack is insane. Like especially all these ones with a fake nexus are fantastic. The ones where you're like, yeah, I'm expanding, but you've actually proxied a gateway as well. So it's just a 3-gate attack, but you have a nexus, and you're just doing a good job of kind of denying scouting and giving off the illusion of playing a macro game. Zest kills a lot of people with that build, and a few others. So it's interesting where PvP is at. Which direction are you thinking of going with that? Because it was a very standard expand you were doing to start off, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I think I can go either way, really. Both are kind of comfortable to me in that my PvP used to just be proxy roboing. That was my entire thing. And then, but also on the flip side, my PvT currently has been like basically entirely Blink Disruptor late games. It's just getting to, once I get to that Blink Disruptor late game, I feel really comfortable. And even in the games in PvP where I've somehow managed to kill a third base but not managed to kill them, do game-ending damage with the Charter Archon Immortal push, what ends up happening is we usually end up going into Blink Disruptor, and I find I usually win those as well. So I find I'm fairly comfortable with just this sort of later game stuff in PvP as well. So I was hoping that, could figure out some way to just get to that, or just do something earlier where I'm more comfortable with, lots of small unit micro as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you do want to go blink macro, it really is just the thing is, I mean, let's just write a few cliff notes for you because so you haven't really looked into how to do the, but it sounds like just doing the blink into fast third base sounds like something that's right down your alley, yeah?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, honestly, you don't need to pay that much. Like, because I find because people aren't too aggressive, it's really something you can kind of figure out as you go to a certain extent. But the general rules for PvP Blink that I'm still pretty new to trying to play these sort of games, and they stress me out, man, because playing Central US with Blink Stalkers is not so fun. It's really bad. I'm like, God damn it. Yeah, and same with Disruptors. But PvP Blink, essentially, it's like 6 to 8 gateway units ASAP. That's the rule to be safe. And as long as you get sentries with, say, this, or at least one sentry with, say, the second or first round of units, you've got scouting, you know? At least one sentry for Halluce in your first 2 rounds of units. Expand fast and much delayed tech. And that's kind of just the solid way of playing at the moment, because as long as you get up to like 6, 8 gateway units as quickly as you can, even if someone's doing a proxy robo or a proxy third gateway, as long as you've got a shield battery, you can't die. They can't kill you, and then you get another shield battery or 2, and you keep making more units, and you're fine, you know. And if worst comes to worst, like you've built your Twilight or whatever, and you don't even start Blink because you just, well, he's on one base, I'm just in survival mode, I'm just making more units and, you know, building more shield batteries on my natural and trying to survive, which you should be able to do. So looking at that, I remember it was really bizarre to me because I always thought tech was so important in PvP, but I realized that basically people are like, look, there's powerful all-ins, but I can get an expansion up as long as I have a lot of gateway units. It's going to be solid. So that's the main rule there. Much delayed tech. But when you do tech, what do? You'd go Twilight, then you'd probably go Robo, right? Keeps us safe against DTs, gives us some more info. Depending on how many sentries you go, some people like to just go like 1 or 2 sentries. If you're really trying to play, you know, non-stop hallucinate, you'd probably be getting 3 or 4 sentries. We then go Robo, and then obviously a Forge would probably be after that. And obviously we want to definitely go 4 gates before third Nexus. And if you want to be even safer, you could make it 5 or 6 gate, right? Up to 4 gates before third Nexus. 3 gas, so third gas as well. So up to 4 gates, third gas, then third base, and you can kind of decide what you want to do from there. I mean, I've been a big fan of the blink up onto their high ground on a lot of maps and just force field their ramp with my prism. I find that just has a disgusting success rate, especially if you do it like where you have an immortal out or something that unloads out of the prism as well. Because if you force your opponent to blink up a ramp into an immortal, it's, as well as your stalkers and stuff, it's pretty damn powerful. But you can go macro off that. So yeah, maybe just try that one out. But obviously we want to focus on PvT today. But any questions about that PvP style, or you reckon you'll try that or just kind of explore it?
Yeah, I think we'll just give that a shot for now and see what happens.
I think a lot of people are wanting to play that game because it's pro style. So I think you kind of get a free pass in a lot of games just because both sides kind of want to do it.
I just feel like what usually happens is I end up falling behind because of maybe I lose track of, I don't know, a couple of oracles or something, and I lose. And it's not that far behind, but against Blink, when you fall slightly behind, I feel like it's just really, really hard to catch up because of how maneuverable stalkers are. And so even with the Charger Archon model push, what tends to happen is that they know I'm building Charger Archon because they've been scouting with oracles and stuff, and yeah, they just end up really well prepared for it, and there's not much I can do.
Yeah.
Because if I try to get third, it just gets cancelled, and then
and it becomes too simplistic, right? They're just, you know, like so many blink stalkers and shield batteries and stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we've got to be a little bit more, a little bit less predictable. Like people have figured out how to handle that by the sounds of it, which is always good on them for managing to figure that out. But yeah, awesome. All right, so should we take a look at this Pvt replay? Just host me up. Lobby host. So you mentioned you wanted to have a middle of the road response. You know how to play greedy. You know how to respond to the really obvious one-base stuff. But it's when they're kind of doing some aggression, still maybe doing a Widow Mine drop despite having seen you going Phoenix. And then it's like just a big, I imagine like the just big 3-base bio tank pushes. Sometimes you just kind of overwhelm that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, for sure. That's a problem a lot of players had for quite a while. So we've got to be very tight with the defense. I actually think Phoenix is really good because it'll help us. It'll help us, I think, be a little bit more controlled. I hope, at least. Actually, 1 second, by the way. Let me while it occurs to me, just fix up one little production thing. There we go. Okay, cool. All right, so so yeah, so you're doing core before Nexus, right?
Yeah, it's mostly just habit, and something I haven't really kicked. And also, I find most people send repro across anyway, so I might as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And there's some small maps in the pool. Also, yeah, Hero Marine had a good talk about it, how he's like, I mean, the thing is, like, we're playing players who are going to build a bunker anyway, which is why the Nexus can be a bit better sometimes. Because it's just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I don't... they're not going to skip the bunker flexibly, which is like a really good player scouts the Nexus down earlier and is like, oh, all right, I'm going to skip my bunker because I don't need it. And it gives the Terran a lot more freedom because then their factory's down faster, starport's down faster. They can pressure you with a Widow Mine drop earlier and all sorts of other things, right? So having the core first, it's good for threatening, keeps us safe, makes our opening a bit cleaner, means we're by default a bit safer against proxy racks openings, right? Because like it's not even an adjustment in terms of, oh, I gotta get my core before my Nexus. It's just standard. So in this game, though, we should definitely be going across because we did see Marine first. I'm not sure if you noticed it. Maybe you'd already ran the probe away and looked away. But you actually, let's look at your camera in the game because there was definitely, you saw the Marine. Let's see if we're watching, though. Were we watching? Were we? You looked away. Wait, oh, you didn't see it. Oh, it was just out of vision. Okay, it was just out of vision. I was watching from everyone's camera, and I'm like, I swear that was in probe vision. But no, you'd just gone down the ramp. Okay. So you didn't actually see the Marine first. Okay, fair enough. So you end up just playing standard here. Actually, we got some Showtime coaching on this build the other day. I don't know if you were in chat, by the way, when Showtime was in the chat. So we decided that Ryan's advice was shit. He said always go 16 on minerals. But basically, if you think about it, you never have enough gas, right? So basically, immediately go 15 out of 16 is what Showtime kind of agreed with us. And the other rule was if we're building a cybercore up here, you know how you do it on some maps behind your assimilator or whatever to like wall off, then you should send a different probe to build the Nexus, or you're going to have your Nexus down at like 460 minerals or something. In this case, it's fine because it's close enough, right? Where it's like, okay, well, that was like 440 minerals, not the end of the world. That's fine. And maybe that even could have been slightly tighter. I don't know. Good enough. But anyways, so I think that's a good rule. Let's make a nice little list. Let's start writing things down. Okay. Pvt Phoenix Colossus. Because this was giving me so much grief as well, man. It just felt like it wasn't lining up properly. And I was like, I think I need to put a guy on gas. Ryan said no, and then Showtime was in the chat and he said, yes, do it. And I was like, get wrecked, Ryan. I got some rare Tobias coaching. 15 out of 16 on minerals immediately. So 1 extra on gas. Other than that, should be identical to what you're doing here. Cybercore needs to go down right now. Okay, so your Cybercore was slightly late there, right? Just because we were microing our probe. Very slight, but not a big deal. Let's go. So then if you'd done that right on time, then your Nexus would have been down at like 405 minerals or something. Almost perfect, right? Bit slow to restart probes after that. So shouldn't we build a probe before that pylon?
Typically it's probe pylon. So it's pylon probe gas, I think, is what people usually do.
Isn't it build a probe? Because normally what I do is I put the Nexus down and I tell him to mine a load of minerals and then go to where the pylon is. So I queue a probe and then I put the pylon down is what I like to do. I don't know what, I'm pretty sure the pros would do that as well, because if we look at that pylon's earlier than it needs to be, right? So check this out, because you put the pylon down, but the cybercore, if 18 seconds would take it to 30 seconds complete on the cybercore, 6 seconds extra. So we could easy squeeze a probe in there, and it's just going to be a little tighter. It's a real small thing, won't make a big diff, but you absolutely should go Nexus, queue a probe, then the pylon, plus queue back to main. And then obviously we can get, the second gas as quickly as possible as well. So it can be queue a probe, pylon, second gas, queue another probe. And we can double check a VOD of that as well, but let's not waste the coaching time now. So if you want to double check that, check it. But because I would be curious to see, but I can't quite think of the easiest place to find a pro build order of that right now. But that should be a little bit better for getting those probes up. Let's double check that second gas timing. So second gas could be a little quicker, right? Nah, it's fine. That's fine. Okay. All right, we're looking good. Looking good. Building probes. We're going to chrono boost the first adept. Fantastic. Okay. Our probes come home. It's going to go up there to mine in the main. That's totally fine, even if we oversaturate the main, of course. Stargate goes down. 2 minutes 30. That's totally fine. We want to go second adept. Now, you're chronoing the second adept. If you want to, you can follow MaxBack's advice. Don't be a fucking noob. Save the chronos for probes instead. I like to chrono the 2 workers just for the safety, easy shutdown of the Reapers, that sort of thing. And because I like to send my first adept across the map sometimes. Like if a Reaper hasn't arrived, I'd already be shooting across the map with both of those adepts to see what I can see. Not a big deal though. So you're going Robo before Stargate and then straight into third gas. Are you playing Phoenix, Colossus, non-stop Phoenix, or are you just playing a few Phoenix?
Just a few.
Just a few.
I just find that the third gas really helps with getting things running, because I feel like I need to spend so much gas on everything that it's a bit awkward.
The problem is, with that though, your gateway count's going to be a little slower. So there will be like certain frontal, like just these like continual 1-1-1 production pushes, which will be a little harder to deal with. So as much as I understand why you did it, because I was tempted to do the same thing with the third gas, I think getting that one worker on gas a little earlier actually will just line things up just enough to make it tight enough. Also, third gateway unit should only be going down after we build these 2 gateways. So you notice these 2 gateways are going down at 4 minutes. It's just a bit too late for safety. That's not going to kick in time for Hellions running in the front and a Marine drop in the main if they decide to do something like that, or a Widowmine drop in the main, Marines walking in the front, anything like that. You're going to be dealing with it with just Phoenix and 3 gateway units, which is kind of shitty. So I really think even if we want to keep the third gas, and we will revisit that, I'm not sure exactly, because I think you might be able to get away with that and it might be fine. Third gas equals maybe we can cut this and have a better mineral flow in this build. I think that's definitely an option, but the first thing is third gateway unit only after second plus third gate, and we want to aim to have those down by 3:30, I think can be our goal. And I think that'll be really nice if we could just have that as a general marker where we're like, oh, okay, those should be started no later than 3:30. Let's actually aim, let's set our sights high. Let's say 3:20, no later than 3:20. So hopefully down about 3:15, something like that, maybe 3:30. We can figure out exactly where things line up. I'm not 100% on that. We'll see where it fits. But I think about 3:20, 3:30, it should be no later. These went down 3:55. So your Phoenix had not been scouted this game, but you decided to go scout with your first Phoenix just to see what was going on. Is that something you like to just do every game? Just get the scouting, make sure you know what's happening?
Yeah, I'd rather do that because I don't know what's happening, to be honest, most of the time. So it's this kind of thing where it's just, if I feel like any game I've saved up Phoenix on, I've been caught off guard by something.
yeah, because you're like,
so
well,
it's like, I might as well just keep scouting. It's not like I change much of what I do, even they know, right? So
Widowmine, the Widowmine drop timing has passed. I might as well fly out with my Phoenix to see what's happening. And the Widowmine drop comes in halfway across the map, right?
Yeah,
You're like, this guy's just fucking bad shit. So that first Phoenix does get delayed because of the robo going down before it starts. and not having the extra worker on the gas, right? But I think it's probably acceptable. Like I've been delaying the robo till after the first Phoenix. So I'm like first Phoenix, then the robo. And I think I'm not going to go too deep on that because I don't really think it's the end of the world either way. So you come in here and you see what? Okay, it's a 1-1-1 setup and no add-on on the starport. So you should be immediately going home and just double checking, standard. There could be Hellions. Well, no, they couldn't really be Hellions, right? Because there was no reactor, but there could be a Widow Mine drop, could be anything. And then you should go for your standard setup, which unfortunately we do have an Adept in the prison, which sucks. But for me, I would always, against any opening, unless I actually see all their units sitting there and go, oh yeah, it's not a Widow Mine drop because I see it's a Raven build or blah, blah, blah. I'd just patrol a Phoenix there and patrol a Phoenix there. And I'd have them both on the same control group so I can still micro them and stuff. But yeah, that's what I would do. So it looks, let's take a look. Because you don't have a pylon on the edge or anything either. And obviously the main is the juicier target always. But
yeah, and I get hit by this little mine drop because
you're getting supply blocked as well. So, so we're a little mineral starved with that third gas. So I really do think we'll opt for that. But if your Phoenixes were in position, you'd have so much time to react here. And then all you need to do is have 2, preferably 3 Phoenix on top of it as it comes in, right? And you can pick up those Widow Mines and stop them from ever burrowing. So let's take a look at your Phoenix production, by the way. Because your first one was a little late, right? Let's see. That's literally the Stargate finishing 312. That's because of the robo, though. Okay. So you have a 7-second or so delay on the first Phoenix because of that. Not the end of the world. You then chrono it, though, and you don't have another Phoenix.
Yeah, I forgot to do a second one.
Yeah. Yeah, so your second one's quite late there. Could be way faster. And then where's the third one? Well, you're building an observer. That's a big mistake, right? We talked about that on stream the other day.
Yeah.
So that should always not be building, right? It should just be a robo base straight away out of that. And that's the problem, right? Even here, if you built a robo bay instead of that and you wanted to queue up one more Phoenix after this, like you wouldn't really have enough gas for it just because the robo is so insanely early, I think. So I feel like, yeah, we want to kind of think of our stage 1 defense more as just gateway units in Phoenix against like a really fast tank push, like 1 tank and a bunch of 8 Marines and a Viking or something, Yeah. Those pushes where they want to get bunkers going really. It's just gateway units, maybe pull probes. Like parting is just like, oh, he's just pull your probes. Don't let them get sieged up. Just engage. Like, you'll see him coming with the Phoenix. Go fuck him up. The Colossus is for those ones where it's like a bit later. There's 2, 3 tanks, more Marines, even without upgrades, right? And obviously want stim and shields and stuff. So I do think definitely we could maybe delay that robo, but definitely want to make sure it's always robo bay before observer. Ob's super low priority in general. We just don't really need it for anything because the Phoenix do that job. So it's kind of the lowest order of priorities. I could imagine there would be games where it's like, hey, why not just get your Twilight and your Forge and your Charge and your +1 going and just build Colossi, and kind of once you've got 2 or 3 Colossus up, you can add a few observers out, like, to beef out because you've already got Colossus and whatnot, and then you can start setting that stuff up, but you're already, going towards a third base and so on at that point. What do you reckon?
Yeah, sounds good. Delay observers and see what happens, I guess.
Yeah. So here's what I'm proposing. You tell me where you're at on this. So my proposal is basically that 15 out of 16 mineral change. Squeeze 1 more probe in before the pylon and the natural. Real small changes just to get a little bit more gas up earlier and that sort of thing. So cut the third gas out of the build. Delay the robo so it's first Phoenix, then first robo. And then we'll take both gases on the natural when we're at like 12, 13, 14 workers on the natural. Say 12, 13.
Mm-hmm. When do I add the gates then?
So those will be down after your second gateway unit pops. About 320, 330 is when you'll naturally have the money for them.
Yeah. Okay.
As long as we're not interrupting the other production. So they'll slide in at that point. So we can kind of do that. All right, so cut third gas, small opening adjustments, and then the big one, which I haven't written down, robo after we start first Phoenix. because I think that'll just make the build a little bit more doable. Cool. Obviously, I guess I should write down, after Phoenix Scout, always set up patrolling Phoenix on both drop edges. And what you might do, so I would actually go, if we're going to be super pro'd, third Phoenix in central fog. So what I mean by that is like, so if you're at this point setting up, right? One Phoenix up here, one Phoenix down here. I might be like, oh, some people, actually, it's really common for me to get dropped from here, just straight through the middle into my natural or my main mineral line. So I'll actually rally my third Phoenix there from the Stargate. Or whatever that like that meta spot is on any map. You're like, nah, they always come from here. Like the front side of the natural on Romanticide, because it's such a big natural or something.
Oh, I hate that map.
That's a map, man. Oh, dude, I don't know how you can not play Phoenix on that map. I watched some great PVTs yesterday and stuff, and I was like, how the fuck does any Protoss not feel panicked playing without Phoenix on this? And there's just drops waiting in the dead space next to every mineral line. I'm like, Jesus.
You just build cannons in every mineral line because you just have to.
It's
just one of those maps where it's like, oh, right, I have to build a cannon in every single mineral line because no matter what, I'm going to get dropped in every single mineral line.
That's the map
so
where if they play mech against you, it is the dream, dude. Like, they cannot zone your prisms out. You will always get charge lot swapped in the base. It's like, oh, this is like really easy to beat mech on this
map. They have to build like what 4 or 5 turrets each for each like sort of dead space area.
Yeah, well, they need to cover so much space. It's insane. Okay, awesome, cool. So we've talked about the pattern. Now let's watch the rest of this game and kind of see the progression and the prioritization and whatnot. So Widow Mine Drop's going to put us back to the Stone Age.
I panicked there.
Yeah, big panic. Oof, 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 oof. At least the second one didn't do anything. 9 kills is not the end of the world, right? If we just go back, change the rally point, chrono probes on both Nexi. We haven't changed the rally point. Rally point, chrono probes. Okay, I guess you're still trying to clean this up. You're still microing. I'm being a bit unfair. All right, we changed that rally point. We didn't change the other one. I guess it's not fully saturated yet. We've chronoed one Nexi, not both. Cue those probes, mother trucker. No third base is a problem. So yeah, that's going out to take a third now. It's a big part of bouncing back in this game. Okay. Where is our extra pylons? Okay, we're going to go Forge Twilight now, but we haven't started a Colossus yet. It's very important to get a Colossus started, right? So to not start a Colossus is like, come on, we need to do that without Expediter, buddy. Oh, you get the Raven. Okay, nice dive. Pick up some SCVs and mules and whatnot. Get those Phoenix out of there. We need to spend our EPM on macro. Come on, come on. One extra SCV, not worth it there, right? It's so important for you to be spending your money right now. So you take a little bit long to bounce home. So that's like, I'm watching from your camera there. I'm like, okay, we could have been a bit quicker. Yeah, now you're supply blocked on 62. That's rough. So we did okay there. I guess following up the Widow Mine drop, let's go to the point where we actually killed it and kind of went, okay, this is done. It's probably about there, but let's just take a look at this. So be about 5 minutes, I believe. Let's watch. Pick up. Interestingly, you didn't move your gateway units up there at all. But not the end of the world. So anyways, at this point, you chrono probes, you queue up probes, you change the rally point. I think it's always good just to do a little like, okay, crisis management, 5 minutes. In a hindsight, what do you think your priorities should have been here in exact order, or what structure should be applied in this sort of situation?
Chrono probes, make sure all probes are mining, which is something I sometimes forget after with mine drop. Grab a third because I need one and to get caught back up. Make sure I'm not going to get supply blocked. So the pylons if I have to. Then maybe look to try and do something on the other side of the map after all that. Okay,
so let's shuffle that little list around a little bit. Look to do something on the other side of the map. That's 2 steps, right? So if we think about that, that is actually send Phoenix across, right? Because we want to scout and potentially do damage. And then it's also micro Phoenix. So if we think about it, send Phoenix should happen immediately, right? So we can even squeeze that in like before chronoing probes and rallying even technically. We'd be like, all right, we cleaned it up, click those across the map. Or maybe we do the chrono probes, we set the rally point first or something. But the idea is somewhere early on, we can send the Phoenix across to a staging point outside their base, right? There's no reason why we can't have those Phoenix just go click across, ready for us to go in, right? But the idea is we're sending them across and we're happy for them to sit there for a little bit because we got to make sure everything is set up at home before we commit to them. It's just that real clear regimentation of send them across, get ready for the micro, but do not commit to it till we're ready. And once we commit to it, be ready to bounce back and do the next step behind it, right? So that'll be really good. So micro Phoenix can come in at the very end. Send Phoenix across as the first thing. Chrono probes plus rally. Make sure they're all mining. Build a third nexus. You said make sure not supply blocked. So that's one that's like a little bit hard in the heat of the moment because it kind of needs to be a little bit automatic, right? Bam, chrono probes. And I would have loved you to chrono across all next side, by the way. You only chronoed in the main. So I didn't really like that. I really think chronoing both probes whenever you take unnecessary damage like that's so important to bounce back. I love that you chronoed. I love that you changed that rally point. I love that I'm kind of sad you didn't change the rally point on the natural since it was basically saturated and your main was so undersaturated. Like that should be a pretty common thing. So chrono all probes plus rally all nexus or next site. Obviously, it's a bit dependent on the situation, but I often see people go, oh, well, no, I'll finish saturating the gas on my natural here. And I'm like, no, come on, dude. Like, you've got literally only 22 workers on minerals right now. Minerals is like so important for you. You're so behind on that. So kind of just like making sure we're like, minerals is what we took damage on. Minerals has to be the priority, like 100%. And that should just kind of make sure we're really focused on that for the next minute, getting that underneath us so we can get up to the next step.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
So make sure we're mining third nexus, make sure not supply blocked. Make sure not supply blocked, maybe just build like pylons should just go third nexus and then just like build pylons can just be a thing. But I mean, maybe that can go down. That should be paired with unit production. It should be build units, build pylons, right? So it should be unit production plus pylons. And then it should be more probe production before microing the Phoenix as well, right? We've already done probe production, but we probably want to do more before microing the Phoenix. So the idea there is unit production plus pylons. So in this case, that would be building the Colossus, right? Should have been really key. So you might be like, but actually, what about the Forge and the Twilight, the next step of the build? Maybe we should have got that in there for sure. But I think that's something that's kind of very situational. And you will naturally be like, yeah, that's the next step of my build. I have to do it. But the other things are always going to be there, right? Okay, I took damage. Bam, probe crazy. Keep building the units that I want, the units that I need, and get to the next step. And unit production, which is maybe you build a sentry at this point always to get energy for Guardian Shield and whatnot. Get a Colossus is really important. And we can break that down situationally. So I'm going to give a little sub point because we built a Phoenix, which is, in my opinion, the most useless unit to be building right now. And then we went Forge and Twilight, and we're not making that sentry. Extra gateway units, not important really, other than the sentry, except if we were thinking there's an attack coming, right? But the Colossus always important. So for me, I just feel like our priorities weren't quite in the right place. Like if I've taken damage, it's kind of already past the point where Phoenix are useful almost, right? 3 Phoenix is good. Sometimes I think 4 is good. It's just low priority. And you've taken damage. And if we think about it, we always want to be visualizing, well, how do I stop that big 2 or 3 base push? That Phoenix is not going to be an important part of that, right?
Yeah, okay.
So a Phoenix popping at 6 minutes, a late Phoenix, scrap it. So Phoenix, not important. Colossus, very important. Maybe a sentry is important, right? Other gateway unit production, I would say, more important for you to get Forge and Twilight, right? Because charge +1 and getting up to 8 gateways, that's actually what's going to defend a real push, right? Warping in an extra Adept or Stalker now, we don't give a shit about. You know, we can do that reactively if we go, oh, this guy's all letting me. There's going to be a wave coming soon. Shit. Warp in units. But so I think generally everything's like in the right general direction. Just a little bit better prioritization would have been cool here. Hey. So awesome. Yeah. So because we didn't do proper unit production and we didn't pair it with pylons with a supply block, that delayed the Colossus. You go into charge in +1. Your probe production's not bad. You do recover pretty well. So like you're in an okay position here. It's just that Colossus is so bloody late. Yeah. Yeah, we're just not. We haven't got the gateway explosion going yet. So we've got some shield batteries going down, but we don't have any actual fighting units yet, right? So that's, yeah. The fact this game goes for another 9 minutes, I'm very impressed with you. Like, I don't know. I guess there's no medevacs here or anything. This player kind of fucked up their macro a bit. Hey, this is a bit of an odd push from them. But it kind of was good because it came at this timing where you just were not prepared at all. So that's an interesting
if they went for
situation.
the throat, I feel like I would have lost, but they decided to sort of do this half like sort of siege that didn't really do anything.
Well, in hindsight, looking at it, they couldn't go for the throat actually, right? Because it's just 19 Marines with no shields and no +1 and no medevacs, no stim. So if he stims at your Colossus, he actually loses the game really hard, funnily enough. Just because if he had a few Marauders, 2 medevacs, it's a different story, right? If those Marauders lead the charge or whatever, but yeah, with only 1 tank, yeah, okay. It ends up being okay, but I think that's a testament to our opponent's macro being a little bit off, right?
I feel like I should have died. I should have died here.
I think your Phoenix actually tilted the shit out of him. Just like looking at this push, I'm like, oh, he just looks like he was really stressed from those Phoenix. But yeah, well done for hanging on and trying to hang on there. What we missed under pressure there is whenever you realize you're in a situation where you can't really defend a base like that third, if I were you, I would have already grabbed a probe and sent it down there and been ready mentally to give up that base. And whenever you're in a shit position because you fucked your opening, you took some Widowmine damage, I've been here 1,000 times, you've seen me in this spot. The most important thing is to say, I'm going to shift gears and just buy time. So when screwed and can't hold a push, shift gears. What are your goals? Buy time with batteries and, you know, shaving units off, right? With the Colossus, which you're doing a great job of. But the most important thing is drop 6 gates in your main. If your production gets up to that 8 gate, like if you could just warp in a round of charge lots at any point here, it's like that is what is always going to clear up a push. The fact that you managed to do it with these units, impressive. But if he'd reinforced or had a couple Vikings or whatever, like it just wouldn't have worked, right? But if you get up that gateway count, that gateway explosion is the great equalizer. It's the amazing thing. And like even here, imagine if we just had a few more zealots in there, right? We could have kept all of our Colossus alive, and this would be super game over. As it is, charge lots are doing pretty all right. And do you win this game? Looks like you're gonna win.
I do win, yeah, because I'm Blink Disruptor against someone 300 more behind me. It's unfair sometimes.
Fair enough. Hey, well done. Yeah, cool. All right, well done. But yeah, lots of cool things like that we've kind of touched on there, and yeah, there's like a few things where it's like, well, just having a good set play for the shit show, like we've just talked about, the last 10-15 minutes is always good. It's nice. Let's not get in the shit show in the first place. Whole point of Phoenix Colossus is a nice controlled opening, right? So better Phoenix positioning. We've got a slight reordering of the build, which is going to make it a bit better. I would love us to go in a custom game and see how that plays out in a controlled scenario so we can answer any questions straight away. Also, because I don't know if we have an actual, unless you have a practice partner or if we have someone who's, what are you, your Masters 3 at the moment, but Diamond 1 would be fine and stuff. What's your MMR right now? Like right around the border?
4.25, yeah, around the border.
Okay, yeah, right around the border, kind of high Diamond 1-ish. If there is a Terran who's willing to play a custom or two with us, let us know, guys. For now, though, we are just, if you are able to do it, hop on the EU server chat channel Piggy. I'm running stream delay because we've got EPT later, but let's host up a map. Just host up a custom, no opponent for now, or a very easy AI should be good with an economic focus so it doesn't come across the map at all. 0 distractions. And make me a ref. And I think just, yeah, so to rehash, what are the biggest changes? It is cut the third gas, put an early probe on gas, right? That 15 out of 16. Those are the 2 main ones, right? And Robo after the first Phoenix starts. So if I need to, I'm going to put this down to like the most important changes. I'm just going to put up the top, right? So I'm just going to kind of summarize that. I'm going to go most important changes, right? There's a few smaller things I mentioned that are nowhere near as big. 15 out of 16 minerals, 1 extra on gas early. Robo after first Phoenix starts. no third gas. Instead, third plus fourth gas at, let's say, 12 probes on your natural. 13? Let's say 13. All right. Let's give that a go, hey? All right. Okay, getting into it. I'm going to very quickly pee. I trust you to do the very reading opening. I'll be back in 1 minute, my friend.
Your probes are under attack.
All right, just got back. We're good. Did we put the extra worker on gas early?
Oh, yeah, we did.
Awesome. We've got an extra... Yep, good stuff. Looking good. That's already 9 seconds faster on our Stargate. So our Phoenix is going to be earlier, our Scout's going to be earlier. So even with the Robo after the first Phoenix, it's still going to be pretty quick compared to what it was before. It won't be much slower.
Glory to the Daylom.
So the gateways don't need to be down that early. You cut probes for that. So that's super early. That was like 308 or something. Well, it was like 305 even. That's okay though. Better early than late. Robo though is more important after that first Phoenix. Yeah. So if your gateways are a little bit late at first, that's fine. Let's focus more on the Phoenix and the Robo in future. But we are looking great so far. So let's queue another Phoenix. And let's go Scout with that first Phoenix. Just queue that across to Scout. Have it on a control group. Keep probing. Pylon is, yeah. So build one more Pylon when you get a chance as well. Beautiful. It's good that you remembered a Pylon. I think that went down after your Robo, which is the perfect time to do it. And yeah, we're looking good. So we didn't remember a third gateway unit. That's totally fine. As long as you warp in 3 when your warp gate's done, it's fine anyway. And that's where a chrono boost on your warp gate that can come in really handy. So something we could have done a bit earlier was chrono warp gate, but no worries. We've got double gas on the natural. Let's get the Robo base started. And you see this kind of just times out a little bit nicer in my opinion, where we've got these 3 Phoenix up. Robo Bay's down. We go straight into Colossus after that. We've got both gases saturated on the natural now, which is awesome. So it's going to be a Colossus and then a Forge and a Twilight. And the Colossus range afterwards is our next gas spinning. So extra pylon or two. Remember, Colossus is going to chew through, and you're building so many probes. Get a probe over to your third as well, actually. We should probably already have that third started. Hey, we've got so much minerals. So I actually don't even know how I time my third, but I would say it's probably about 4:30 most games. We'll come up with a rule for that at some point. Let's get that Forge, Twilight, and then Robo Bay. Colossus range, I mean. Cool. Sentry and gateway units, so we haven't been warping in at all. So we really should have warped in a few more gateway units if we don't know what's going on. Obviously, we can get away with skipping it if we've got good info with our Phoenix and stuff, but if we're under pressure at all in any way, it's, you know, good to warp in. And I would have warped in Stalkers there. So warping in Zealots, that's like a real, let's just hope my opponent does nothing to me. Let's not be a ladder Protoss. I know it's tempting to be a, let's hope my opponent doesn't attack me or that I have 100% information, but to be making Zealots minutes before charge is done is a real dicey and dangerous thing to do. And that's going to entice a lot of Terrans to 2-base all-in Protoss players if they see too many people doing that. Charge, yeah, doing very good. Okay, so it's important, I think, to get the gateways down, right? So if you're ever unsure, you want to just play safer, you struggle sometimes against 2-base pushes, or if you see a 2-base push coming, right? There's no third CC, I would always pause at about 8 probes on my third base, get those next 5-6 gateways going straight away, then resume probing, right? Only after that. And it would always be unit production takes precedence, because if you've got a handful of probes on your third, they're on 2-base, you're winning the game already, right? If they're going third command center, it's a different story. It's fully saturate the third as quickly as possible. Templar Archives as well, of course. And you are missing a pylon behind your natural, as well as behind your third. Just a random pointer. It's always nice to have those so that you can build like a cannon or a battery in the mineral line or behind the mineral line if they're doing a lot of harassment. Yeah. So obviously it should be a prism after the third Colossus. We can't delay that too much longer. You can start +1 armor straight away. Now that's a very quick 4th base you're going for. So this is kind of a point where that should definitely be a strategic decision, right? Based on the situation, if we're going to take that 4th. Because just making lots of Zealots and Archons is actually a great way to grab control of the game. So what were we talking about before? Big 3-base bio tank pushes. Even if they've gone 3rd CC, like, well, I want to have a 4th because I want to be ahead of base. Not necessary, right? If we just make enough Zealot Archon Colossus, we can fuck up a tank push. Because remember, the difference is being ready to jump on them in the middle of the map where we're ready, we set up, or we have enough Zealots to just hit their production really hard, and then we just like shave off units with Colossus and slow down their push, and like that's a game-winning way. Or, oh fuck, I just built my second Robo, my second Forge, my DT Shrine, and my 4th base, and another 10 probes, and I actually just can't fight your army, and now the tanks are able to walk right up and siege in range of a Nexus, and this game's a fucking nightmare, because we know how bad Zealots are if we're not able to initiate the correct way, right? The Colossus, if we don't have enough anti-air, we don't have Blink yet, there's Vikings picking them off, like that's the nightmare scenario. So that's kind of the key strategic thing, or the fear that kind of influences how we'd like to play, in my opinion, where, don't get me wrong, we want that fast 4th. We want that second Robo, that second Forge. If they're really good at late game and they're going to take a quick 4th command center and they're going to go Ghosts and they're going to go Liberators and all that stuff. But I think what we need to have a clearer idea of in our head is thinking about these different phases in the game and going, hey, should we really be rushing up to that so quickly? So down at the bottom of these notes, I'm going to just kind of write some more stuff here about like, okay, so 3rd base stage. So first of all, if no 3rd CC, pause at 8 probes to get up to 8 to 10 gates before resuming probing. Unit production and pylons always take precedence, right? So that was that rule we talked about before. But also, even versus 3rd CC, we saturate our 3 bases, right? What do we get? Like, so right now you're at like what, 9, 10 gates, Templar Archives, single Robo, single Forge, right? Prism after 3 Colossus. Lots of Zealots, some Archons. Adding Blink after charge, right? Just so we can handle Vikings and Libs a bit better. But the question is, when do we take a 4th, right? We can stay on that situation for a long time. And the thing is, you're dropping a 4th before you've even made Archons or that many Zealots. So just be very wary of how quickly you're going to that in this particular game. As a default, I feel you should always be making a round of Archons, 1 or 2 rounds of Zealots before taking the 4th, just to make sure you're focusing on the right things and you're actually committing to that stage of the game. Otherwise, it feels like we're playing tag on each step. Oh, yeah, I got this tag. Move to the next thing. Wait, you haven't actually made the Archons yet, or the Zealots, you know? And you see, sometimes I get caught up in this as well, where I'm like, oh, he's being greedy, I'll be greedy. And then I look back at my army and I just don't have a real army, or I haven't really committed to it at certain stages. Sometimes I've missed moments where I could have set up big Zealot run-bys, or I could have gone and done a big attack, or I could have, as I said, ambushed him halfway across the map or when he's moving out, rather than letting them siege up on my base. So I think that idea is sometimes you want to force yourself to stay on this, and you could even do that as an exercise. You're like, no, I don't take a 4th. I mass units off this, and I like look for the Prism dropping Zealots in the main. I have Zealot run-bys waiting on the edges of the map. I spot when he moves out, and then I try to jump on him. I try to send my run-bys in, trying to like find ways to excel with this stage of the game, so you understand how to use it both aggressively and defensively. And we really get good at that before we go to the next step. Because the next step, adding those extra things, that's like mega late game, the 4th Nexus and all the rest of it. So, I mean, the 4th Nexus on its own is not that big, right? I'm just making sure we don't get caught going too deep in the game without building a lot of stuff in the mid game to be really powerful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously the next step, what would be your order? We just want a general order here. So 4th Nexus first start. What do you go next? Do you go double up, second
Nexus,
Robo?
Second Forge, second Robo,
Second
then
Forge.
Disruptor Production, and then just a few more gates, depending on how ahead or behind I feel. And then...
Do you get a DT shrine ever?
Usually a bit later on.
Okay.
I like having a sort of base of Blink Disruptor first and then going to DTs and then...
Yeah, whereas it's more like, oh no, like let's just get a few cannons and batteries where needed, get a 5th base. Like you kind of, but we're happy on that composition because we feel really good on it, which is awesome. That's good.
Yeah.
So I like that. So you're very comfortable in the disruptor stage. So and there could be an argument for, okay, we can be a bit greedier because we're going straight to disruptors, right? But then we need to like prioritize the second Robo a bit because that's kind of what's going to keep us alive against pushes and allow us to slow them down. I do think it's really good though to set up those big Zealot counterattacks and backstabs and things like that, right? So it's just good to kind of think about this stage of the game and how powerful it is, because there's nothing worse than getting caught mid-transition where they've just gone for this big 3-base biotank push. And you'll find in the meta, everyone does the same thing because they're Terran players. So you usually need to just see their race and you'll know what they're going to do. It's like, oh, if they've gone 3cc, they're always going to push with 2-2 and 170 supply of biotank medevac. And maybe there'll be 3 ghosts. You know, like whatever the thing is, right? Like there's very kind of similar patterns that they're going for a lot of the time. So yeah, so I think this kind of covers a lot of that base theory in terms of, okay, 8 probes on the 3rd base, pump a shitload of units. That's like one general safety marker, right? Versus 2 base, where we don't even need to add more probes necessarily until we hold a push, yeah? We also have our 3 base safety stage, which is 3 bases, got the 10 gates, the Robo, keep pumping units. That's another safety stage, right? So we've kind of got these different stages we've mapped out, which I think is good because it gives you generic ways of saying, I'm going to just mass units there. And even if it turns out my opponent goes for a 4th and I feel I can't do much with that army, well, I've got 33 Zealots down on the bottom left of the map waiting for a run by, and I'm dropping 2 Robos and a second Forge and, you know, taking a 4th base and like, you know, we can still play out to that stage. Fuck yeah. You know, you're good with disruptors. You can make comebacks. You can still make a lot of utility out of that army. But did the opening feel better? Are there any questions coming to mind? I'm just kind of mindful of that. We don't have too much time left and I want to make sure we kind of answer any questions and actually wrap up any loose ends here before we come to that ending stage.
So, you said warp in stalkers instead of zealots. I'm kind of worried that you sort of run out of gas if you end up having to. Well,
That's a good point. Yeah, right. Because you're pretty gas tight. That's a good. Should we just rewind from here? Obviously, it's not much use at this point anyway. We could rewind this game and just take a little look-see and kind of analyze the build a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's a good point. Do the zealots really do anything for you? I mean, if Phoenix are like picking things up in a fight, yeah, they've kind of got to stand and fight, right? If they want to shoot down the Phoenix or something, right? If there is an early push or something.
Teleport successful.
I guess you've got Phoenix, so you can kind of do without the Stalkers, right? I'll probably be making a couple more Adepts, but you know what? I mean, it's good to be situational, isn't it? It's good to be reactive. So I think we can argue here that it's not a bad idea to just be making some Zealots or some Adepts or whatever, or to even be powering up super hard. I do think we need some gateway units just because, you know, just something in case there is... Oh, it looks like they're going macro, but then they still do a bit of a push. You could have some units in the mix. First things first, by the way, just looking at that build order, go to like 3 minutes. So you built your gateways a little bit early. So let's just kind of internalize that little bit of the build order. So try to make sure you're queuing more probes there. And remember that gateway is more like 330 or 320 or whatever, 315. So it's just the idea is we want to go Phoenix, Robo, Pylon. And that, I think, is when the second and third gateway should naturally squeeze in. Because we should have like maybe when you put your gateways down, it's like, well, you've got minerals, right? But you're literally about to get missed probe production on a chrono boosted natural nexus at that point at 3 minutes. So we should probably have maybe two more probes queued up, maybe 3, right? Which means we don't actually have the money for that, especially if we're about to build a Phoenix and then a Robo with the next 100 gas.
Right, yeah, okay.
Like if we've got an extra probe or 2 queued up at these times, yeah, yep. Cool. Sometimes you look at it in a replay and you're like, I've got the money, why not? But yeah, your Robo goes down a couple seconds late. It's not massive by any means. But Robo straight into Pylon, I love that you've got those chained together. Your probe production's good for the most part. Like we missed so little probe production, it almost doesn't matter what we just said, but we should just try to sync that up, make sure it's really consistent, right? And
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to... Yeah, I guess we don't want to be building Stalkers early. I mean, if we build an extra 3 Adepts, it's only 75 gas. I think that's okay.
Yeah,
okay. But if you want to be flexible on it, and you're like, nah, I actually try and defend everything every game with 3-4 Phoenix and my couple of Adepts from the early game, maybe a Zealot or 2 I warp in, that's fine. When do you want to put the Nexus in the build? Should it be right after we start those gases? We send a probe to the third to take the third?
Yeah, probably.
Cool.
It's around 4:30-ish.
Let's just link that then. We'll just chain that together. Where did I write it? Plus send probe to third nexus after dropping gases. Okay, cool. Just kind of adding that there. Awesome. That'll be good. That'll make sure we get that down because I'm like, man, we do have a lot of minerals, right? So yeah, that'll be really nice because then we get a nice quick third nexus, about 420 or something like that, maybe even that early, depending on how it lines up. And yeah, you don't want to be warping in Stalkers straight away. You're absolutely correct on that. We could be doing it a little later. But even then, actually, I was thinking, I think Adepts or Zealots, not Stalkers. I hope I didn't write the Stalker note down in here. Let's say we probably want to go to 5 or 6 Adepts by default, because that's a really good squad if they do one of those fast pushes as well, where you can shade on top of the Marines and go in with the Phoenix. The Phoenix pick up 2 Marines. The Adepts kill like 5 more Marines very, very quickly. And then you just get rid of the anti-air and like can pick up said tank or cyclone or whatever else once all the Marines are gone.
Yeah.
So the Adepts are really good for pairing with the Phoenix against those little surprising pushes. Very good for dragging Widow Mines onto their own units as well, right? Just shading on top. Cool. I didn't write that one down at all. I'll let you mentally write that down or write it down physically yourself if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay, so the third base goes down. What about the Forge and Twilight? I think you might be tempted to get them earlier. However, looking at the timing of them in this game, right? Let's assume we stopped at 8 probes on our third and then got our gateways down. We just need to have charge ready for like our first big warp in of Zealots, right? That's kind of the important timing. So as long as it's done by like... So in this case, your Twilight finishes at what? 5:45. Now you started +1. I would... Obviously, +1's better long term. Takes a long time to get those upgrades. But if there was a 2-base build we were up against, we'd go for charge first, right? That would be the gas priority. And we'd chrono boost the shit out of it. We'd be like, oh, this guy might be hitting me in 1 minute. This is a 100-second upgrade. Let's drop 3 chronos into this bad boy. I gotta get this fucking ready, man. But yeah, as long as it times out with that, then we're all good. Now, so here's a point. Yeah. So this is, if you go to 6 minutes exactly in this game, and if you're ever scouting's denied for whatever reason, or you're blind, this is almost one of those things you could apply to any PvT build order. If you're not 100% sure what's going on for whatever reason, 8 probes on third base or thereabouts, stop probe production temporarily, get your gateways down. Because right at 6 minutes, you start 2 pylons in your main base and you're still building a ton of probes. And it's like crazy how much this can delay our gateway explosion, right? Where if we drop 5 gateways right about now, we're warping in at 7 minutes before 7 minutes even, right? Let's say about 7 minutes. We start warping in. Our charge is finishing if we chrono boost that a couple times. That's an awesome timing to be nice and safe. But if we are just a little slow on that, right? Build a few more probes. We build a few extra pylons. Then the Nexus finishes. That gives us even more supply. Look how much free supply we have, right? You can kind of see there's a little bit of inefficiency there, where it's ideally we drop all those gateways, then we drop those pylons, right? And every second can matter. So we end up being like, all right, here's 3 gateways. And it's like, wait, we need more than 3, man. We need to get up to like 8, 9, 10 gateways. You know, this is going to be charge arc on top of these Colossus. This isn't like a Stalker Sentry sort of army where you're building more expensive units or anything. So we do finally get those gateways up, but it does delay it a little bit. And this is a game with no distractions. So that's so important, that gateway timing. Because, right, if a Widow Mine Drop or a Lib comes in, something distracts you for whatever reason, you're busy scouting or harassing, you can imagine that little distraction becomes even bigger, right? It becomes massive. That little distraction becomes huge because the gateways then get delayed another 20 seconds on top of that, and then you're finally warping in Zealots, but they stim in, they overwhelm, and if you just had one more Zealot warp in, you'd be fine. So that's always something we can kind of look to and just visualize a bit.
Right, so just focus on the gateway explosion more than probing. I think I just have a bad habit of just pressing the probe key.
If you've seen a third command center, I think that's right. I think what you did here is totally right if you've seen a quick third command center. But, you know, that's just the 2 branches. Like, do you feel you have that? Is that something you've got kind of built into you? Phoenix C third command center? Is that a very different branch? Or do you feel it's almost like you just do the same no matter what? Like, you kind of know this is more aggressive or this is more economic, but you don't really have a set branch that it immediately pushes you into? How good are you with that?
Like, I mean, I think in general, unless I see something very blatantly obvious, I tend to just autopilot with my production a bit.
Right. So let's just like try and visualize those 2 branches, like write down a set of like, whether it be what I just said about the pausing probes, but like there's probably other notes as well. Like, well, all right, my Phoenix need to be really fucking on point outside their base to see when he moves out, right? Like I need to like, you know, I got to get a battery out front, my natural out front, my third. But then you got to choose when to do that, right? Nothing shits me more than someone seeing a 2-base push coming because they see the production. So it's like, okay, 2 minutes from now, you're going to get hit by a big attack, right? So it's a real early Phoenix Scout, and they drop shield battery straight away. I'm like, your gateways haven't even started. Those shield batteries are literally hurting your ability to hold because they're slowing down your gateways. They're slowing down your production, right? The shield batteries want to be the last thing that comes down, right? Don't get me wrong. We don't want to be building it as they come into our base and they're not ready yet. They take 30 seconds. So preferably we build them just before they move out kind of thing. But that's just one of those things, right? Where it's like, you know, kind of make sure you are, because you're naturally a player who clearly is powering a little bit here and there. You're clearly playing the Protoss way, which is scout and adapt and stuff. Just make sure you're putting that in those 2 clear categories, because you're going to get players against this. I guess we could even have a third category, but there's 2 categories, right? let's say there's 3 categories. There's players who just get out a Cyclone, a Viking or 2 in the main, Marines in the natural, and they just defend immediate 3rd command center before 3 barracks, before engineering bays, bam, 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 bam. Obviously, there's nothing you have to worry about till a 3-base push, right? So you can be as greedy as you want in that scenario, right? That's a pro ball 3 bases. Don't pause it all to get your gateway explosion or anything, right? However, there is another one, and that is straight to 3 barracks, engineering bay. There's a strong push that can come out with stim and shields, right? About the 7-minute mark usually, depending on how they're doing their build order. Could be 6:15 technically if they're literally doing no pressure at all. And they're macroing like a god. But that's okay. That's the 2-base one. All right. And what's the final one? The final one is 1-1-1. I'm gonna make a bunch of units and try to kill your 3rd, right? Whether that be the old mine drop comes in, then a liberator comes in, then a tank comes in, tank marine push on your 3rd with bunkers. That's not going to work very well versus Phoenix usually, but there's that one. The more ones that are adapted to Phoenix players, like 2 Cyclones and 2 Vikings and Marines, and they're trying to just attack with this random set of units at your 30 or natural, and it's just a whole bunch of stuff that's good versus Phoenix, right? And they're kind of relying on you just not having enough gateway units. And if you have 7 gateway units in a shield battery, it's the easiest hold of your life. But if they kind of catch you off guard, it gets you. So those are kind of the 3 different branches of Terran. You should know your tells and very much know exact details of your responses to each one. So just make sure you're doing that in your games. Don't get vague, right? That's the trap we fall into when we're finding a new build order like this. All right, working on Phoenix Colossus, a new build. We lose a game, we're like, wow, I guess I just did the build wrong or something. And it's like, wait. Let's put it in context first. Let's understand what we're playing against. Do we know exactly what we're meant to do in that scenario? If not, that's our starting point. Once we've got that memorized, then we can start going, ooh, I misexecuted and blah, blah, blah. But as long as we've got a good understanding of what we're scouting, a Phoenix build is all about scouting and control and adjusting how greedy we're being to what the opponent's playing.
Right, yeah.
Cool. So we are out of time, mate, but good stuff. So I think you should look very good with that style. Your Phoenix positioning obviously looked a lot better this game on the edges. Yeah. And obviously it's the final thing is sometimes they just fly past and you don't pay attention, you don't notice, and they still kill you with Widow Mine Drop. That's a pretty basic one. It's at 4 minutes 30 to 5 minutes, you should just have heightened awareness at that stage, right? And when you're first adjusting the build, you won't, because you're like, oh yeah, I got to go my 3rd Nexus now. I remember after the gases, right? You're too mentally preoccupied just trying to remember your builds. You'll make mistakes like that. But otherwise, you'll be like, yeah, I got to remember as I'm queuing that probe over to my 3rd that I'm keeping an eye on my minimap kind of while doing these repetitive macro opening build tasks that I know very well. So my attention is on the minimap. That 30-second period is the danger period, and you'll be good. So awesome, man. All right.
Nice hat playing a Stargate build for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah, it's very different, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's valuable.
I've mostly just played ground builds for the vast majority of my StarCraft careers. That's been, interesting changes.
It's good to expand and take some horrendous fights and all the rest. It's really useful to learn those different units, throw some terrible engagements away, running your Phoenix into units and not using them correctly and whatever else. But it's all good reps, right?
Eventually, I'm going to try out Stargate openers in PvZ as well. So that's going to be a thing.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I got a jet, but good luck. Have fun on the ladder, and I'll catch you next time, mate.
Yeah. See you.
Good night, dude.